Всем привет! Меня зовут Мария Беленинова, я коуч по работе с горем и автор этого просветительского проекта про горе «Горюй с тобой». Я создаю этот проект для тех, кто переживает горе, переживает смерть близких, а также для тех, кто находится рядом и хочет поддержать. Подписывайтесь на этот канал, чтобы быть в курсе будущих видео. А также связаться со мной или подписаться на мой ТГ-канал можно по ссылкам, которые я оставлю в описании. Сегодня у меня в гостях иностранный гость. Мой первый иностранный гость Педро Фабиао. Педро, привет.
Привет, Маша. Рад видеть тебя снова.
Чтобы представить Педро, мне нужно будет зачитать с листочка. Педро – клоун, актер, режиссер, преподаватель, тренер, психолог и психодраматист. Педро руководил крупнейшей португальской клоунской организацией. Он продолжает обучать, руководить и выступать с актерами и клоунами по всему миру. И также Педро ведет воркшопы для бизнеса и предпринимателей про аутентичное лидерство, про развитие креативности и эмоционального интеллекта. Я знаю, что кому-то может быть очень сложно смотреть это видео. Кому-то может показаться оскорбительным, почему мы говорим о смехе и радости на канале про горе. Я поднимаю эту тему, потому что она регулярно всплывает на моих индивидуальных сессиях с клиентами и на группах поддержки, которые я веду. Я поднимаю эту тему для тех, кто испытывает стыд, кто корит себя за то, что улыбается, корит себя за то, что иногда чему-то радуется, хотя сейчас идет траур или утрата случилась совсем недавно. И как будто бы это вещи несовместимые. И для тех, кто, может быть, внутри себя поставил запрет на радость, потому что нельзя. Для тех, кто, возможно, набрасывается на себя, внутри себя, гнобит себя за то, что хочется жить, за то, что хочется периодически улыбаться. Горюющим людям очень сложно. И дополнительное чувство вины, стыда, аутоагрессии, страха, что подумают окружающие, усложняет это горевание. Поэтому это видео я создаю для них, для тех, кто ищет разрешение улыбнуться чему-нибудь порадоваться, даже когда траур, даже когда горе. И вот сегодня мы будем говорить о том, что смех и способность радоваться, даже когда больно, даже когда траур, это ни в коем случае не оскорбление этому трауру, не оскорбление умершему и не обесценивание утраты. Мы также будем смотреть на смех и на юмор не как на стратегию избегания или отрицания, или отвлечения. Мы будем смотреть на это как на здоровую, адаптивную стратегию справляться со сложностями жизни. Именно поэтому я пригласила Педро, эксперта, у кого многолетний опыт обучения клоунов, которые в дальнейшем работают в госпиталях и в хосписах, с взрослыми, с детьми, с людьми, которые умирают и у которых есть смертельный диагноз. И мы будем сегодня говорить о целебных и чудотворных свойствах юмора. So, I've invited you as an expert in humor and laughter to talk about grief, sadness, and laughter during mourning. You know, some people might think, what is the connection? And today we'll see. I'm going to ask you questions about humor and laughter, but I want to ask to keep in mind that we are creating this video for people who might struggle today, who might experience a loss or facing some hard, tough life challenges, or giving care for someone with a terminal illness. So we'll talk about humor from the perspective of healing. What does laughter mean to you?
The interesting thing about laughter and humor is that it can serve very different purposes, right? So it can serve the purpose of calling the attention to you, which I already referred. It can also serve the purpose of connecting, so as a bridge between people. There's a saying, I don't know if it was Chaplin or there was some of the big ones who said that laughter is the closest distance between two people. When two people laugh together, when they truly do a deep belly laugh together, there's a sudden disappearance of the borders between them, right? So there is a kind of a unifying factor that happens when two people can actually truly abandon themselves, because laughter has this element of, there's a moment where you abandon your control, you abandon your sense of, rigidity of what is reality, what is not reality. All that collapses for seconds, and you are able to feel very close to other people. So there is this bonding effect that humor and laughter can bring. So when I became a professional clown, and mainly when I started to work professionally as a healthcare clown, as a hospital clown, that's my big discovery. Is like, wow, there's very few things that can connect people so much as the ability of releasing tension through laughter together. And in moments of crisis, that's actually a really beautiful thing to be able to bring to a space, right? We will probably talk about that a bit later. So laughter started becoming something that I discover that I can bring to many parts of my life, not only, when I want to defend myself or when I'm feeling in need of being in connection with others, but I can actually really use to, for instance, in moments of shame, moments of fear, even moments of grief. We're probably also going to talk about it today, because it creates movement. It allows for things to move inside. And that movement for me is very, very important, because that's really when change and situations of learning happens. It's when we don't block the natural movement of emotions inside ourselves. So laughter is a huge catalyzer of these movements, and can really help people don't feel stuck in any kind of emotional content that one is going through. So for me right now, I'm trying to befriend humor and laughter in this way, in a way that is just like a little wink to the situation, and remember, is this really all there is? Is this really the ultimate truth? Or there is a possibility of making some little shift in perspective and realizing, there's many different ways of looking at this. And let's connect with this experience in a more creative, more, integrative way than just our one way of experiencing a phenomenon in each moment. So yeah, I'd say laughter saved my life. But if I got stuck in there, it would also have generated, I know a lot of comedians and people who just got stuck in trying to be funny for the rest of their lives, right? And for me, it was very important to start transforming my relationship with laughter as well, so that I can relate with it in a way that I can grow. I don't feel stuck.
We also discussed with you in private about clowns and sadness. And you shared some ideas about how laughter and sadness live together, or how they can interact together. Please share this idea in this video today.
I'm going to try to remember what I said. Every day, new ideas come into my mind. So if there is something that you remember, also please interrupt me and add on to the conversation.
You tell me the idea that laughter can open the door to meet sadness and to welcome sadness. And that was such a beautiful idea, because What I'm doing in my professional work, I invite people to welcome grief, not to avoid it, not to escape it. I try maybe a little dose. So that was an idea very beautiful that I wanted you to discover today.
I think everybody who works with humor for a really long time starts understanding is it's very hard to touch one emotion and not to touch all the others. The emotional world doesn't discriminate. It's not very tidied in little boxes, right? In little wardrobes or in little places where you can isolate the experiences. So emotions actually, they are something that is happening all the time. It's not possible to stop feeling emotions. You can actually redirect your attention into some other elements of life. But if you turn into your body, if you turn into your sensations, if you turn into the color that's going on inside, there's always an emotional experience going on. So it's very hard when you start dedicating your life to humor and laughter to block the access to all the other emotions. The more you connect with any emotion, the more you increase the connection with all the other emotions, right? So the thing that I said is when you open the door to joy and to laughter, right, you are immediately, whether you want it or not, creating more conditions so that you can experience all the other emotions. You can, that's the element of the movement, the emotional movement that I was talking about. So when when you laugh a lot, it happens very frequently that a little bit after you need to have a moment of a lower energy phase to recover, right? Because there's always this balance between emotions. The more you go up in one, then there is always a compensation happening right after. Small. I was saying this, and I was remembering it's almost like in sex, right? When you have a huge release, you have the climax, but in the end, it's called in French they call it the little death to the orgasm, because after orgasm there is a sense of like you die, and there is a low of energy, right? Because you need that after a huge explosion. You need something that goes down as well. There's always this compensatory element going on with emotions. So if you laugh a lot, you need to also befriend then a state of like access to sadness or to, because there is always a goodbye to that moment. When you have a big moment of happiness, that's not going to last forever. So slowly there is a sense of when you laugh a lot, you even between friends, okay, this moment was amazing. We're maybe never going to forget this, how much we laughed right now. But now it's time to welcome this grief, this sadness, or the beautiful moment that we have, because it's not going to last. That is the ultimate wisdom when you start befriending your emotions more and more, is that you have to be saying goodbye all the time, because you're always meeting a new state. You cannot control what the emotions you're going to have, but sometimes you meet things that you really love and you really enjoy. Like when you're in love, when you fall in love with somebody, it's a beautiful state. It's a huge high. It's almost like being on drugs for weeks in a row, but it's not going to last. And that's also the beauty of it. The beauty of life, it's the fact that nothing's going to last. Everything's a transition. So this calls us to enjoy what is in there in that moment, and also connect with that joy, but also connect with the sadness that it's going to go away. For sure, you can believe that this beauty that we're experiencing right now, either you're in love or you feel deep connection with somebody, it's gonna leave you. Maybe it's gonna come back, but it's gonna leave you again. So that's the history of our lives. Basically, it's the ability of meeting the new and then saying goodbye to it so that you can meet again the new, and you're not stuck in the old, right? So I'd say that basically the bottom line is, once you start really opening to one of the emotions, you are creating conditions to opening to the other. It's the same thing when you open to sadness and grief. You are also creating conditions so that you can feel joy, so that you can be happy. You know, the thing is, when you block one of the emotions, you are creating a barrage in this process. So you are actually preventing yourself from reaching new happiness, reaching new joy, because you are just trying to block the experience with one of the emotions. And of course, like, we have our preferences as humans. Most people prefer to be happy, prefer to be in joy, than to being in sadness, fear, or anger, right? So there is more and more in our society the search for situations where you can feel joy, right? Even how much we invest in our careers, you know, sometimes this ambition is part of a quest for joy. The ultimate reason why we are applying so much energy in attaining a goal is because we believe that once we reach that goal, we are going to find joy, right? So that's ultimate our quest, is the search for joy. But if in this quest you start rejecting the other emotions, and this is what clowns with experience or good experience start discovering, is you cannot start editing your search just for joy. Because if you forget that the whole experience of humor involves the connection with all the other emotions, then you are blocking the access to a deeper state of joy. You can maybe find, you know, more superficial jokes and tools that, you know, if I use this, I'm going to get a laughter. You know, there is tricks to the trade in humor and clowning. You know, there's some little elements that are a little bit scientific. You do this and you do that, and the probability of getting laughter is very high. But if you start being obsessed about these little experiences and forget that there's a whole depth of human experience that if you are brave enough to welcome in your world, in your work, you can get much deeper laughs together. And actually people are going to feel much more brave in your presence, in the presence of these comedians and these clowns, to actually touch these emotions. I often say that the best clowns, they make you laugh at the same time you're about to cry, because it's a deep laughter, and it makes us connect with deeper truths of human nature. You know that we experience the funniness and the strangeness and the beauty of a moment. At the same time, we understand how fragile everything is, right?
I participated in your workshops, and that was really interesting to me to see how through laughter we can kind of make a distance with some situations in our lives when to face, for example, a shame, or to face some confusing situations or our fears. But laughter or the techniques that you do on this exercise will kind of, making a distance between this, and then trying to interact with these really difficult emotions. And I've also discussed with you that um, laughter is about connection, it's about relief, um, it's about dealing with some hard emotions. And can you continue, please? What are other secret features? As I remembered, from my perspective, there is something that's happened in the moment. So we can laugh in past or future. There is some right now. It's like, and you're talking very interesting in this way that we're fully in this process. Can you continue develop this idea?
I hope so. So just to finish this, the how, what I call the roles of laughter in the human experience. So we have the connecting role, the bridge. We have the protection role, which is like a wall. You can use humor as a wall. You know, there are people who are really good in, you try to touch them, but they protect themselves with jokes, deflecting, being touched, right? So they learn that humor can actually help them feel safer, right? So you can also use laughter like that. You can use laughter to call attention, like I described as well. It's more and more known, for instance, all the presidents of the United States at the moment, in the last 10 years, they have teams of comedians that punch up their speeches, for instance, because they know that comedians, they know how to use words and use language in a way that, you know, they always get a little punchline here and there. And this way of presenting your ideas are a lot more effective. People will remember a lot better if you introduce a little moment of joke or a little surprise in your speech. So it's becoming more and more common that, you know, people in politics, people in media, people who actually have a public personality, they use specialized help with humorists, with comedians, to call the attention to messages they want to pass on, for instance, right? So highlighting is another feature of laughter, right? And the last one, that's, you know, we are talking only beautiful things about laughter and humor, but humor can also be used to attack, right? Humor can also be used to exert power over others. And there are people who are very good in making that use of humor and laughter. You know, they use laughter also because they either feel unsafe or they feel they need to dominate, or, you know, so they use laughter and humor for that purpose. So this is generally the main usages of laughter and humor, just to close that element. But what you brought now, when you were describing the your experience in the workshops, and I think you were very, very perceptive in understanding that there's a lot. What you describe has a lot to do with our relationship with fear and our relationship with the unknown, because there's something about any emotion when it's powerful that generates a fear of feeling, of letting ourselves give in to the emotion. Because what happens is, when we feel inside, there's such a strong wave that wants to come and occupy our space, as you said, wants to make itself present. And it can be so powerful that our normal system of balance and understanding, you know, our ego, our way of navigating reality, can be hijacked by this emotion and can be taken out for some moments out of the steering wheel of the whole experience, right? And if you grew up with a sense of danger around the experiences of emotions, if in your surroundings emotions were deemed dangerous, you know, either because, you know, you had massive tantrums and your parents were scared of the intensity of your emotions, or, you know, there can be so many reasons why, and society is very creative in finding ways of telling us, the individual, emotions are scary, don't give in to emotions too much, right? So what happens is that we prefer, and we get used as a habit, to fight for control over emotions. So one of the main things that we do when we bring people to workshops is to help them transpose themselves into a parallel reality, which I call the play world, which is a place where you can you bring whoever you are, but there's no consequence in this world. It's a world of all possibilities. It's a world where you can play and experiment things without any fear that that's going to have repercussions to your life, right? And I do believe, in my modest opinion, that everybody should find a space where they can feel there's no consequences. Whatever they do in that space, there's nothing that's going to come to the reality of their permanent lives, you know? So they can really fuck around, they can do whatever comes to their bodies, to their experiences, without the fear that that's going to define who they are, right? So what happens, these spaces are also called transitional spaces because they have an element of all possibilities. They have an element of fantasy. They have an element of, you can access anything that the human can do, but at the same time, so it feels like it's fantasy, which gives you a freedom. But at the same time, there is a strong element of there is a reality. It's you who are in that magical world and that magical experience. The emotions that come out of you, they are real. They need to be experienced. They need to be expressed. They need to be seen in a way, right? So once you start realizing that there is the possibility of exploring yourself without the fear that that's going to ruin your reputation, that's going to attack the balance you have in your own personality, then you realize that then when you come back, you can actually choose what you want to bring to your life from there, you know? And then there's a slower work of trying to integrate that in your normal life. But this is what we do so that people start slowly dissolving this fear of, oh my God, what am I doing? What is this emotion? I've never done anything like this. And they feel out of control. Slowly, when you repeat this experience, you realize there's so much pleasure in this movement. There's so much. Once you let yourself go through an emotion till the end, normally what's at the end of the emotion, there's always joy. That's the secret. You know, there's a pleasure onto this process. So once you do it enough times, you start to trust, oh, if I give into emotions in safe scenarios, I will always find a pleasure of being in deep contact with myself and others. And that pleasure is actually the a big friend that helps you again get in touch with yourself, in touch with your body more and more. You know, I think our body is very intelligent if we let it speak, if we let it give us you know, experiences and wisdom and guide us in many moments. I think it's a huge source of progress, of development. That's why there's more and more disciplines that include embodiment. In my workshop, I use this very simple metaphor of the rider and the horse, right? So life, it's part of this balance between the rider, who is the part that tries to manage the situations that we go through. And it has very beautiful intentions, which is to keep us safe, to give us sensitivity to others and to our surroundings, you know, to make the right choices in our lives, you know, to integrate past, present, and future. All these very essential elements of life, it's what our rider gives us. But sometimes, many times in our societies, this part becomes too predominant, too strong, too controlling of the other part, which is I call the horse, but it represents our spontaneity. It represents our body information. It represents our pleasure. It represents our emotions. It represents our impulses. It represents our strength. It represents, you know, everything that guides us in situations like, oh, I'm not enjoying this right now. You know, you need your body, you need your horse to tell you this information. And if you don't have contact with it, then you stay in situations that are not beneficial for you, or you don't act in situations where you should have acted if you were in touch with your experience in that moment, right? So in workshops, I try to bring people to their own personal best balance between rider and horse, right? Some people, they need to have their horse pumped a little bit because they have very strong, powerful riders on top of and malnourished horses that are not fed for a long time, right? So you want to feed the horses and let them run wild in the field so that they can cope with that powerful rider. Or the opposite, which is some people, they when they wake up their emotions, their horse is a stallion and it's wild, and they need to make their rider more robust to be able to face all that charge that they bring, right? So that I'm just saying this because you touched this experience in the workshops, and that's exactly what we try to give people, the ability of balancing themselves and feeling, oh, I can actually, I don't need, one doesn't need to dominate the other. If both are friends, and the best lives, the happiest people are people who actually bring a good balance between both of them. If you think of horse riding, there is a word in horse riding that is equipoise. When you see a rider and a horse, that seem that none is leading the other. They're so balanced together in the horse races or in the horse contests that you just feel, oh my God, it's like they're one. It's like when horse and rider feel like one. That's equipoise. And I love this word because I search for that in my workshops.
So I want to back to the topic of grief and grieving and release and tension. I work with people, mostly women, experience loss privately or in group sessions. And at the beginning, it seems like a lot of hard work. But then at some point, I see a sense of humor awaken in a person. Like she can make a joke about herself or about some situation and scared about this, ashamed a little about this. And for me, this is a good sign. That is a sign that there is a good adapting process. That is like a healing process that she's getting better. And sometimes it's like, some not dirty, like black humor about widows, for example. I want to continue to talk with you about humor as a form of healing. And you mentioned in our private conversation about such organizations as clowns in hospitals or clowns in hospices or also funeral clowns. Can you please discover what is the philosophy behind these movements, behind these organizations?
Absolutely. So more and more, as you said, there's clowns appearing, invading spaces that before were really not, you would think of a hospital. For sure, you'd think of a funeral or a war scenario, and you would not think of clowns, right? And in the beginning, there was a lot of resistance, even from the medical profession, like, what are these doing here? Right? Because you attach an idea of clowns to clowns that, it's circus, big wigs, big makeup, big shoes, very intense presence that in such a delicate environment as the ones we're describing, it would be too much, definitely. But the beautiful thing about clowning and humor in general is like it's been present in our societies since we became humans, maybe even before, because there are examples in other species of high mammals also of some elements that are responsible in the system for tension relief, right? So what happens in these situations is we imagine somebody in a hospital, normally the hospital environment is not a place that people chose to be. It represents a crisis. It represents a break in normality, right? So when there is this crisis, there's a lot of a natural flow of existence that gets interrupted. And sometimes it generates a sense of shock because, we are not always prepared to face this break in our previous normality, right? And when there is this shock, and we see this all the time when we work in the hospital, we enter very sensitive spaces where people are still trying to make sense. What does this mean now to our lives? Of course, we can enter a medical ward where, somebody just broke a finger, and you have a lot of normality going on. That's going to last for 2 or 3 days, and then you're going to go back home. There is that as well. We don't need to paint the hospitals or these situations always as like these big sources of drama, but they exist a lot too. The hospital is also a space where there is a lot of drama. There is sometimes even tragedy, and what happens is, like in history, in the history of humanity, with the shamans, with the elements in the tribe that helped people face these shocks, these very unpredictable events that cut their previous experience of who they were, of normality, right? So clowns actually come in these moments to first allow people to remember that there's a lot more than what is happening there. Because what happens when there is a shock is you become hyper vigilant to all the information of that situation in particular. And you lose touch with everything that you've always been in your life so far. You've been a very complete person and able to face a lot of different scenarios. So clowns bring this sense of, hey, remember, you're a human. It means you're amazing. It means you have a lot of possibilities of feeling, of connecting, of improvising, or facing the new. So also we touch people in their emotions. That's the other thing that we do in these situations, even in funerals. That's why there are now people who hire clowns, especially if they already know the clown beforehand. So this I know clowns work a lot in funerals, but most of them, they knew, either they knew the person when they were sick and they were working with them in the hospitals, or there was some friend who already knows the clown. There needs to be some. It's very hard just to go online, I'm just going to choose a clown for my funeral without having any connection with this person, right? But the role that clowns have in these critical moments is of really bringing a sense of connection between people and with people within their own emotions. Because sometimes people need permission to remember that there's something down there asking to be felt. And this movement is so important to be opened up and to be welcomed. And this is, I believe, the main role of a clown in these situations, is to remind people it's okay. And actually, it's going to be much better if you befriend whatever emotional experience is there wanting to be felt. So sometimes, we bring laughter to situations where you would not believe that people could laugh in that moment. Sometimes we just touch somebody in the shoulder and they start crying, but it's a connective crying. We remember the different roles of emotions. One of the roles is just to connect people within oneself, connect people with others. So sometimes it's just, if you're skilled enough to know this is the moment, I will touch you in this moment, and you will let go, and that happens when you let the body knowledge be guiding you. And this is what good clowns become very good at. They start to trust what their bodies are telling them. Oh, do this right now. Just do it, because if you trust that experience, it's almost like a shamanic path that your bodies know what they need to do in these moments. When you meet somebody in grief, if you let go of the fear of doing something wrong in that moment, of being inappropriate, of increasing the trauma of the person, whatever, if you just connect with your body, you take a breath and connect with your own emotions, and then let your body do the work. Most times your body will know exactly what that situation needs. Not only you, but the whole space, the whole system. You will connect with what the space is asking to happen, right? So this for me is my job when I go into a sensitive space, a sensitive room, is what does this space need? And I let my body connect with it, and then I let my body start playing with it until it finds the door to the emotional expression that needs to happen.
I also like when you said that laughter can provoke something in a person. Like, for example, to provoke to feel alive, or to provoke to see the situation from other perspective. Yeah. And like, I don't know, there is some button, then you push and something happens with another person.
Oh my God, yeah. It doesn't always, humor is not always very caring and soft, It's like sometimes humor, it can be almost like a slap, hey, wake up. I know you. Come on. Humor, maybe without the need of taking substances, allows you, sometimes it can be such a strong shake that allows the energy that is blocked in one narrative to see your own reality from a different perspective. And there are friends, I hope most people have stories of friends that in some hard moments they could just slap you with humor like that. They could call you to yourself, call you to your senses, or call you to your potential, or they trusted your strength in that moment, that you could take that joke. And that in itself is a statement. If I make a joke in a hard moment, you were mentioning a while back about dark humor. Doctors have the darkest of humor, especially oncological doctors, the kind of humor they have, and the clowns that work in the hospital, pretty much the same, because we take so much care all the time when we are with the people we work with, that we also accumulate a lot of stuff, and we accumulate this sense of you always have to be so sensitive, but in some moments you need to release it. Otherwise, again, it's going to bring rigidity. It's going to bring a tension that you're not dropping. We need spaces to drop the tension. Otherwise, it becomes rigid, and the narrative around it becomes rigid. And that's the end of mental health. Mental health means movement. Mental health means moment of feeling things, but also moments of releasing everything and resetting. Just reset everything. So I do believe that that's the role of this humor you were describing, when you can just help somebody snap out of a situation, and it can be very provocative. There's even like a kind of therapy called provocative therapy, which I love and I kind of use in my workshops a little bit, which is somebody comes with a whole story, oh, I'm this, or I cannot do that, and they normally always face on the other side, somebody says, oh, you can, believe in yourself, no, I see that you can, and they always occupy the same position. It's a theater, right? But if somebody comes like, oh, I cannot do this, and you go, of course you can't, it's impossible for you, look at you, you're so weak, you're so unable to do everything. And it surprises if it's done not with a mean intention, but if it's done with a little bit of a wink in the eye, like, you see what I'm doing here, and you trust the experience, that person is calling you, don't make me play this game with you, right? You are capable, but I will not say you're capable. I'll say the opposite, so that you take the role of feeling empowered, right? So you can only do that if you have a humorous approach to life. If you don't have a humorous approach to life, you're just always going to be playing the same games, the same theater. That's always going to be having the same results.
You know, I also lead the conversations about death with adults. I'm leading kind of death cafe meetings where unknown people are meeting and talking anything related to the death. Somebody might think that it's going to be some very sad meetings, but people always laugh at these meetings, especially towards the end. You know, and for me as a facilitator, it's always a good sign. So it means that I have managed to create the space where people can connect with each other, when people can make a joke about this topic and feel this release, and this get closer with the other mortal strangers. So, and release the tension of it. And that's, I really love it. And that leads us to my last question. And I want to discover more about clowns' work with people who have a terminal illness or who are by the end of their lives, for example, in hospices. So my question is how humor and laughter can help to face fear of death and our own mortality.
Wow, that's a deep one. So starting with death when you are in the position of losing somebody, there's something that you were describing that, sometimes in this experience, there is the need or when you hear people being able to laugh, that something good is happening there, right? If you think when somebody dies that everything they leave is just sadness, if you even think when you die, do you want people to just feel sad all the time they think of you? Is that the experience you want to leave in people? It's something that is culturally very narrow, this understanding that to honor the moment, to really, be able to face this person that you lost with something that actually honors their life. I do believe that the best form of praise and honoring that person is to really understand what you loved about them and try to become a little bit more of that, right? If you can do that, I don't see any best form of praise and of actually really continuing whatever amazing qualities that person had. And many times, one thing that we love about the people we love, it's their ability to make us laugh, to make us feel good, So I see this so often in, the best funerals that I've attended are funerals where people were always joking about the things that their dear one who left, all the funny, crazy, things that you would never say in other situations. But when we share these things together, it's like, oh my God, this person was so crazy. It added so much madness and beauty and unpredictable events to our lives, or in that special moment, it just this person made me laugh. This person made me see something. So for me, that's the most beautiful way of honoring somebody who dies, is to be able to bring that element of their lives and embody it, not just, oh, they were so funny. No, if you really think they were funny, if you really think they were kind, if you really think they had happiness, try to welcome that in your life as well. That's how you make them immortal. You know, I remember this when you said, how do you face mortality with humor? Just, you know, there's a beautiful saying. I'm gonna try to get it very quickly from an Argentinian writer. It's gonna take me a while to find it. So it's something like laughter laughs in the face of death. If there's something that makes death feel weak, is laughter. If you can laugh in that moment, you touch immortality for some brief seconds. Because you can really forget, yeah, everything is ending at any moment. You know, since you start living, you are in danger and you are dying slowly, right? You can live life like this. You can live life as a permanent loss. But in the moments that you truly laugh, it's moments when you find the freedom of this human condition that you and everybody you know, everybody you love will disappear from the face of earth to never be remembered again. That's the human condition. It is pretty hardcore one. It's a pretty strong stance to come to this world, knowing you and everybody will love will leave this world and will never be remembered, you know, after enough time goes by. So this predicament is very hard. What do we humans have to face this shit that is in our predicament of being humans? We have laughter. We have humor. That's our superpower to actually be able to feel immortal for some moments. You know, is when we can like, you know what? Fuck it. Like there's this book of the art of saying fuck you. What is the name? The subtle art of saying fuck you. There's these international bestsellers in the last 10 years that is about being able to say fuck you to everything. And what's underneath this attitude is this thing, you know what? It's important that we have moments of not caring so much. That's when we really experience immortality. That's why dogs, every day, they welcome you when you get home with the same level of pleasure. You know, they know you're going to come, but every day a dog welcomes you with extreme levels of happiness and joy because they live in the moment. They are not projecting themselves into the future and their deaths. So there is a wisdom also in letting go and being just able to laugh, and because in these moments you can actually reach an experience of, you know what, this is great right now, and it feels it's never going to end while you're laughing.
I'm understanding this quote as laughter. It is something when we're honoring life and when we're feeling truly alive in this moment. And I thought that this feeling, that's why we can um, deal with our mortality, because now we're feeling truly alive in this moment. And it can be really much more powerful. Okay, thank you so much. It was really, really interesting and deep. Our conversation has come to the end. And thank you for coming today, realizing my dream, and share your thoughts, your expertise.
Thank you so much, Masha. It was a big pleasure to have this conversation with you. And yeah, I hope that whoever are the people that you are connected with, in this quest to, you know, experience grief. It's so rare to, you know, we didn't talk about that, but sadness and grief is one of the biggest gifts that we can offer to people, because all the other emotions have spaces in society where we can collectively feel them, and it's normalized, it's legalized. There are, you know, comedy shows where you can feel happiness and joy and laughter together. There are spaces where you can feel anger together. If you go to a football match, you know, that's a space where people are allowed together. There is collective spaces for all the other emotions. There's less and less collective spaces where you can feel grief and sadness together. So thank you for creating those spaces as well for people.
Thank you so much.